And here we go. We're off and running. We
here.
have had a little pre-show run-up to this episode. Pretty excited. Having a friend, someone that I met a few years back on the show today, and in their new headquarters, which is pretty awesome. We have Garret Bowen on the show today. I'm here with Jason, my cohort, as always. Scotty over
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late, yeah. Scotty
still
on the
look
ones
terrible.
and twos, which is awesome. But
I still look terrible, but it's the camera. It adds 10 pounds.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
relax.
so, anyway, Garret, how we doing?
Good. Good to have you. Good to be on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. We tried to get it done before. Garret lived in Denver for what was it, like 2 years, maybe?
2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
About 2 years, and we tried to get him in studio, but he had like a job, and then he had like a kid, and then they're just.
Then we
Things get in the way.
And then we moved back.
And then he just said, "You know what? I'm going back. I'm pulling the plug, and I'm just gonna, hit the road." So he's back in Idaho, but that's all right. So we're gonna.
He's doing recon for us for when we go out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, someday.
You guys got
Just-
bags because it's gone.
Just text me that honey hole when we're done with this.
Yeah. So, but want to get into some different things. Obviously, I know he's not in frame, but Justin is there with you as well, and there's a little bit of a backdrop of their new place. You guys kind of in fact, I think it was just yesterday, right? You guys kind of released a little preview of your new headquarters and editing shop there.
Yep.
Maybe let's start there. I know you guys posted a little story on Instagram, but I think it's always good to talk about what was the brainchild behind that, and now it seems maybe a little more official that you guys can make some things happen.
So this all started. Justin had the idea to do it a couple of years ago. It was just kind of, he had some remodels to do inside his house that he had bought, and then he wanted to focus on getting something done with his barn out back behind his house. And I think what really did it is one of his sons accidentally threw a baseball and smashed one of his 32-inch monitors. So that really kind of lit a fire underneath him, and he's like, I'm getting something done out there so we can be out of the house. And then so
That kid needs some training. I know a guy.
Yeah. It all kind of started. I was just getting ready to move back to Idaho, and he was getting ready to take off the whole entire roof of this existing building and put new OSB down and basically waterproof it in, because it was just tin over the trusses. So it was pretty, not flimsy, but to kind of dampen the noise and completely waterproof it, keep the dust out. Like, he did a lot of work to it and did some rebracing on the frame, like existing frame of the building. He did a huge list of things before I had got back to help him out. And then I helped insulate the roof, and basically I sanded on our juniper column for about 13, 14 hours, and that's basically did the rest.
Hey, that's all right.
He just picked on it, when he got off work during the weekdays and some long weekends. And I would say just over a month, he did most of it in just over a month, kind of the final stuff. So it has been a long time coming. Like, we saved some of our hunting money that we get throughout the year and kind of help pay for some of the costs. And since we're both using it and I'm here, basically I might as well just live with Justin because I'm here so much. But it's super nice to just kind of escape the outside world, come in here, start a fire, and sit down. And we've already been able to get so much more work done than having our editing space being in the house with
Right.
a bunch of other people always around. Just a lot of distractions. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to come out here and unplug and get to work.
Yeah. Well, I know that. I mean, like I've pinged you. I don't even know, probably countless times. Like, I'm sure when your phone buzzes, you're like, "What the hell's he want now?" Where I'm like, "Hey, what do you do for this? What do you use for this?" And so, and I think that I can now sympathize with that because I'm like in the neophyte phase of trying to like sort through all this stuff and learn how to get better at a lot of these things. And you guys, if you go to you guys' website, if you look at any things that you guys have done in the past, 4 to 5 years, I think that first of all, there's a craft to being able to put out good quality hunts. It's not that easy. And I can remember talking with you one time. You're like, man, you were going to go on here. Like, it'd be nice to just, do a hunt where you just hunt and that's it. And
Right.
so talk a little bit about, for you guys, maybe that process, and I know that maybe you came in a little bit, somewhere in the middle, but I know from your kind of experiences and Justin's experiences, like how you've kind of developed into what I think, you guys have a style, if you will, of how you portray hunts. Like, talk about that.
Yeah. I'll just kind of start it like when I first got introduced to Justin. I'd always had like some sort of passion. I never imagined it would be what it is today, like where I'd be at now, but always loved to do photography and like I just had that kind of creative eye as far as outdoor photography. And it's just kind of been like a second nature thing, and it wasn't ever forced. And then once I had met Justin and we went on a hunt together, and I had already previously saw what he was doing with the filming stuff, and I was just so intrigued and just kind of dove headfirst into it. And he was a phenomenal teacher, and he's self-taught editor, self-taught filming, like all of this is all self-taught, YouTube University kind of stuff.
It's the best way.
I would say like after the 4 or 5 years that I'd always go sit down and help him edit. Like I didn't know how to do any of it. I would just be like a secondary input basically when we were doing projects or editing a film, and just watching him go through a film and see what it took to put together, I think really helped with what the two of us wanted out of filming hunts. And like now we can go on a hunt and we barely even have to talk to each other on what we want filmed or how we want it shot. Like, yeah, we always bounce stuff back and forth between each other, but there's no like, well, why weren't you in focus, or why wasn't the audio mic on? Just like little stuff like that. So we mesh really well when it comes to filming hunts, and it's a ton of fun. And then last year, we got so overwhelmed with the amount of hunts and footage that we would get in a year that I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy a computer so I can learn how to edit. Like I've watched you do it enough and know our style. So now that's kind of what I'm really getting into is the editing portion, and really trying to help limit the amount of time we spend on editing stuff. So there's 2 of us doing it now versus 1. And I mean, it helps a ton that Justin's right. I mean, he's 2 feet from me at the desk. So anytime I have a question, I can just wheel my chair over and he can break it down instead of me being at home and he's, at his house. We're right next to each other. So I think that's going to speed up like the learning process of editing.
Right.
Talk about some of the excess amount of gear that you have to bring on a hunt. Obviously, you have a regular pack with your stuff that you need for the hunt, but how much extra equipment are you bringing in terms of cameras, batteries,
Gosh, a lot.
bottles of kettle?
Kettles.
Kettle, yeah.
Hey, it's happy hour,
kettles and
folks.
Sprites.
It's happy hour.
Well,
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but
it's gotten worse over the years. I feel like when we first started going, like the first 2 years that I was in doing this stuff, it didn't seem like we took near the amount of camera equipment. And then now it's stupid how much we take.
well, I'm sure it's a lot higher quality too. You're not just dragging GoPros and extra batteries back there.
That's the problem, is we really invested a lot of money into our camera equipment. So we have 3 Sony batteries and I think 5 or 6 different lenses, and we run a 2 to 600. No, did I say batteries? Three camera bodies. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
All
Are
the
you
same
shooting
model,
on?
so-
You're shooting on DSLRs.
Yeah, we run the Sony A7 III,
Gotcha.
and then roughly we take 10 to 15 batteries on a 10-day hunt.
Yeah.
And if that's backpacking, like these new Sonys have a bigger battery, so 10 to 15, that you're probably 4 pounds with batteries,
Right.
3 to 4 pounds. And then our big lens, the 2 to 600, is what, 4.5 pounds, 5 pounds. So that's an additional 5 pounds. The
We're at 9 if you're keeping track at home.
Yeah. To the ounce.
So, and then we'll run like our all around lens, the 24 to 105. That's always on like just a monopod. So that's just a handheld.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right around 5 to 6 pounds there. And that's basically the guy who's filming. He'll always have that. As far as like steady cam stuff, we do the majority of our stuff on the monopod. We don't want to really take any extra stuff, but we have some like spare cleaning stuff that we always take with us, like lens cloths,
Right.
little puffers, clean your sensors, batteries. We always take the wireless mics. If there's going to be any weather, we'll have all the waterproofing stuff to go over the lenses and the bodies. And sometimes you don't even take that out of your pack. So that's
Right.
just like unnecessary weight sometimes.
So you're looking at like 15 to 20 pounds of extra gear just for the camera guy.
Yeah, and we usually split that the best we can, because we flop. We'll go like hunter one day, filmer, and then hunter filmer. So we're switching, but we'll offload some stuff if we get like a spike camp, and we'll just take what we need for the day. So sometimes, like, if say Justin's filming and I'm hunting, he's got the big lens on a tripod on his backpack, extra batteries, cleaning stuff, all the waterproofing stuff, and then he's got another camera on a monopod in his hand full time. So he's right there. He's probably packing right around 30 to 35 pounds with just like kill kit, food for the day, and his camera equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got a camera in one hand and a bugle tube in the other to help you out.
What's that?
He's got he's got his camera in one hand and a bugle tube in the other to stay back and call the bull back in for you.
That's happened multiple times. Usually, like September hunts, we like to run in like a crew of 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So you can have one just strictly dedicated to filming.
Yeah.
Justin's gonna get in on this. He's trying to get
He can't help himself.
Can't take it anymore.
He's on it. What's up,
How's it going? How are you?
Pretty great.
Nice to informally meet you.
Yeah. Well,
So, but yeah, well, welcome aboard. Now make it 4. It's a party.
Too bad we don't have any drinks.
I know.
Damn
well,
it,
we
Scotty,
talked
we
about
need
that
some
before.
drinks.
So
I thought I could have swore you were having a little bit of.
I wish. I got to go work after this.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
but yeah. So I mean, now I think moving from there. So now you get into doing what you do, right? And I think that over the years, I mean, I think you probably have learned a lot, obviously, from successes, failures, or whatever. What are some of the things that over the past few years you said, all right, we've evolved. These are the things that maybe have been game changers in terms of improving, what ultimately becomes what you want it to be, which is the experience and the perception that people get when they see something that you put out. I think that's the important part. I think you touched on it, there, Garrett, where it's like there's a lot of things that have to go right. And you mentioned with, making sure you have a designated caller. Like last year, for me, like I can think of, it was just Jason and myself. We had 3 bulls right around us, and I'm holding the camera, and I got a tube in the other hand, and everything's going haywire. And I'm like, you know what? I got to decide whether I'm going to hunt or film, and we need another guy down here.
Right.
Like, talk about some of the pitfalls and things that you guys now said. Like, all right, we've kind of got this streamlined, and
You've got a system now.
yeah,
yeah, that's basically like if I ever have anybody come up to me and they're like, "What's the number one advice you could give to somebody?" It's always you have to dedicate a cameraman, and you have to dedicate your hunter, you have to dedicate your caller. Or if it's just a spot and stock hunt, you have a shooter and then you have the camera guy. Anytime you try to like limbo that, you're not going to be successful. I mean, sometimes you might get it, but until we got to the point where we were unselfish enough to not hunt that day is when we really started to see our like success as far as the filming side of it.
Yeah.
It's tough to do because you pull up to say you're spring bear hunting and you pull up to a big ridge and it's just like the most epic country and there's like 5 bears on that hill. Well, you need to let the hunter glass up the bears so you can capture that instant response and what's going on at that exact moment. The second you drop the camera, pick up your binos and start glassing, well, crap, there's
your film's done.
You've
Right.
seen 2 bears already, and then you have to try to like recreate this mess.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. Like, until you figure out like, okay, my job today is just to film, and whatever happens, and you have to like, I have to trust Garrett that he's going to get it done.
Yeah.
And over those experiences, over trial and error and hunting together, like I trust him. Like he's going to find that animal if it's on that hill, and you just have to like go with it. Anytime you try to do both is usually when you don't capture the content, and that's what we really try to do with our films is like we hate B-roll. So anytime we can capture it, true in the moment of hunting, like I think
Right.
most people can relate to that and see it better.
Yeah.
I think you said the word at the very beginning of that, unselfishly commit
Yeah.
yourself to not being the hunter that day. I think that's a really
Yeah.
hard pill to swallow. I know it would be
It is.
for me, and Joel, I'm sure you'd be in a similar boat where it's
Without
like
question.
the whole idea that I can't really carry my bow or potentially put myself in an advantageous position to take an animal that is a tough pill to swallow. But like you said, if you want good footage in the moment,
Yeah.
without having to try and recreate something, you gotta swallow your pride and do it.
Yeah, and that
Especially with how
You know,
few and far between opportunities can be, depending on where you
Exact-
are.
you go on a week-long hunt, you may only be the hunter for 2 days if you're in a big group.
Right.
And when your 2 days are crap, it's really hard to get lazy on the camera and want to be a part of the hunt. That's when you're missing, what's really going on. And you just really have to have a really tight-knit group of guys that you're hunting with and just like trust in them that they're going to do their best and you're going to capture it.
Yeah.
I think we've done a better job. Like, so
I used to chew Garrett's ass all the time because he would leave. He would be so involved in the hunt, and it was my biggest pet peeve that I had to turn around and tell him, "Hey, film me walking across this creek, or film me do this, film me do that."
Right.
And it's like you have to kind of like beat it into people sometimes.
Well, you got to remember that you're filming, right? Without
Yeah.
having, you're in the moment, but you also have to record that moment. And that can be tough.
And we're, I
you
mean,
got me on young though. I was what, 23,
Yeah.
24 when I started?
and then I mean it's all about like the consistency. Like if you go in every day and film every day, like it could happen, or there's a story to be told that day, your films will be, so
Right.
much better.
Yeah.
When you film for 10 minutes one day and then you film real hard the next day, like that's when it gets tough.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it takes some time to really like just kind of disconnect from the hunt. You really, but it's also fun in a way. Like I love filming clients because it's almost like when somebody's paying you, like that's your whole thing is just like you're so focused on filming somebody else, and you have to kind of take that same mindset into filming, like on our crew where you're not getting paid to go out and hunt. You need that, basically the reliability, like you're gonna do your job.
Right.
So what is it like? So, all right, you film a day's worth of hunting, and you have to go back into studio or into your fantastic new building now, and then you've got to try and recreate that hunt as you remember seeing it, and hope that you have the footage there that's going to coincide with that idea. Walk us through that kind of process of you kind of combing through the footage and then trying to, in your mind, match up with what you have on film.
So I'm a big believer in music throughout a film. That kind of like sets your vibe, sets your tone to the film. So before I even drop the footage on a timeline, usually me and Garrett, like we come back and it's been a couple days from the hunt, and we'll literally just start watching clips and putting music behind it. And you kind of get a feeling like, okay, this is a little bit like dramatic feel, like, we were struggling, like that kind of gives you the ideas before you even start laying it out. You might have some like really epic, like fast clips that you just start thinking about different songs that go in place. And once we get so much of the videos nowadays have turned into series, whether it's a 3-day, 4-day series or 10, like Shoot Born and Raised, where they're doing the series all season long.
Yeah.
So we kind of go into we kind of have a mindset that we want to do a series and that we're filming every day from start to finish. But if you don't have enough, like, encounters with animals, like we'd rather do one premiere film instead and have more of a production value instead of like, okay, nothing happened on episode 2. That was the most boring.
You tried to tell a story of a day where you just hiked your bow around the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's kind of like a fine line as far as, when a series will work and when it won't work. Like our elk season would have been epic to do a series, but we only killed one elk on film this year, September. So it's like, well, we probably better just do a big film. So
yeah.
But most of the process is I start laying out the whole timeline. I get every clip out there and then just start cutting the starts, cutting the ends, and really looking at like what I have. And if it's not enough, then you have to start really being creative, thinking of voiceovers, thinking of like, maybe starting the end of the hunt at the start. And I like simple, like start to finish films that are just really well filmed, that just flow. It's easy for people to follow. There's not like this back and forth, crap going on. That's kind of the style I like. That's just engaging, but it just depends on, how much we actually film throughout the day. And
you got to try and tell a compelling story, because that's, what you guys are in the business of, is telling stories through pictures. So
yeah, exactly. But it's before we even start really editing, we're probably watching, we watch our content for 4 to 8 hours worth, just to watch it, relive it, listen to music, laugh, do whatever, just kind of see what we have. And then at some point I usually start them and throw them on a timeline and start cutting them. And then it just kind of takes off. And I've started, I've edited like at the very start, or what I try to do is like, if I know I have a kill on this day, I kind of build it from that spot, get everything built around that kill, and then kind of work in the start, work in the back, and kind of build around those major points of the film.
Yeah. And I know, like, as we start kind of working on some of those things, like I know that's the first thing for me is I go back and I start pulling out everything and start laying it out. And it becomes like, it can be daunting, right? Where you're going, especially when you have similarities, right? Where you have to try and fish things out, right? Because you're seeing similar landscapes, similar terrain, and you're like, oh man, like I know somewhere in here was where this happened and whatever, and you have to start kind of like filtering all these things down. As you guys have now like kind of started to progress, like let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I know we had a lot of fun with a couple of years ago was, we went to Film Draw, and that was Full Draw. Yeah,
Full Draw Film.
Jeez, Full Draw Film Tours. And,
who's been drinking on this
yeah,
podcast?
No kidding, right? And anyway, you guys obviously have had a really good presence, from there, and now last year, for example, you guys produced the film, more than one. Pure Ovation had theirs as well, and then also the guys from Incline, that was an awesome story. Talk about that. Like, I think that that in itself is kind of a unique product. Like, how did you guys early on target that as like, hey, we want to get onto there? Like, was that a breaking moment for you guys kind of thing, or a target or an aspiration, or how? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so really my biggest like influence to get into filming was the Full Draw Film Tour. It's probably been 6, 7 years ago since I went to the very first one in Boise. And like I've always seen, hunting shows and you see them on Sportsman's and Outdoor Channel and all that. But when you go to those theaters and you actually see, you know, all the people's reactions and all the cinematography that these filmmakers, back when Born and Raised was doing really high end films and Outback Outdoors and Jason Matzingers and that kind of just like we kind of looked at each other and we're like, holy crap, like this is the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was like overnight. It just really clicked and I was like, you know what, let's try it and let's just see what happens. And I think our very first submission that we made to the Full Draw, it didn't make the tour, but they ended up showing it at just at the Boise show. It was like the start. They played it right before all the main shows played, and it was just the coolest feeling. Like for the longest time, you look up to those filmmakers and you think, man, they're just like gods. Like I don't see how they do it. How are they getting these shots? Like, yeah, it's almost overwhelming. And I think that's when you really dive into it and you set those goals and then as soon as you hit one of those, it's like, it kind of puts it in perspective as far as like, it's very reachable. And if you have a passion for it and you really want it, to stand out, like do the research, when we first started, we just went and had to spend, out of pocket and just bought cameras. And I literally was on YouTube all the time, how to do time lapses, what video settings to do. And yeah, it just really like my drive, came from the Full Draw Film Tour. And what it's crazy now because like, Jade runs the Full Draw and like we have a great relationship and he's always asking me, do you got a film in it this year? And when we were first starting out, I was like I couldn't even talk to those kind of people. I thought they were just like so above everyone, it's just crazy. But yeah, it just I don't know, just watching other people, I think that's a big benefit to anybody that wants to get into the industry. Like you don't have to be like somebody or copy somebody, but there's always somebody that sets the bar, and so if you find a filmmaker that you follow them, like learn from them. A lot of the things I do is just research, guys that run certain settings on their cameras, and I follow them and watch all their videos, and it's really easy to kind of mimic their shots. And it might be them filming in the city and you just take that to a hunting environment.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But
yeah,
our Full Draw stuff, we obviously would love to have a film every year in it. It's a lot of fun, and being able to have your family there and your friends and get everybody, surrounded around you and all the work that you put in. But with Quinn and Pure Elevation coming in and giving us the opportunities to step in and help them out and fill their life dreams of making the Full Draw Film Tour like it was for us. And I know the Pure Elevation guys have been in it quite a bit, but for Quinn and that story, and it was just like a no-brainer. Like I felt like we had our little fame, if you call it that or whatnot, but we were happy with, our efforts in the last few seasons. And like, it didn't matter to us if we weren't on the big screen, but being a part of it was like the coolest thing through somebody else's work.
Well, and I think that the other film with, Incline and I remember Garrett, you telling me before it was even out, you're like, wait till you see this. Like, this story is freaking awesome, and so like all last season, and of course being as odd of a year as it was, it sucks where everyone's sitting at home and it's Zoom calls and BS where, no one's out and actually getting that experience, which really kind of It is what it is, and we've all dealt with it. But you as you mentioned, Justin, it's like there is such an aura about being in those theaters or wherever they're held, and just the feeling of all the people there, the excitement. Like I remember watching South Cox, the 5-yard bull, and like the reaction that people get from that. And so I remember last year really looking forward to seeing that film that you guys put out with them, because there was just anticipation from what you had told me, Garrett, about that. And it was interesting where like I almost to my own fault was like a couple of the other hunts come on, I'm like, I don't want to see that one, let's go, come on, like, hurry up, I want to get to that one, right? And it's probably too bad for some of those people where their first experience, they didn't get to enjoy that kind of response, because it's like it was amazing. I remember walking out there just shaking my head going, this is amazing, like see that many people there that just love
just
hunting.
like any other performance art or sport, right? You feed off the energy of the crowd and the people to give you feedback on what your work is. You were talking earlier about putting people up on these pedestals and and feeling kind of almost like you don't belong, but there is a sense of accomplishment when you do create something. Even like you said, you're not on the main stage, but you're still there. You're still part of the process. There's still somebody watching your film. There's still something that you can be proud of. And listen, not everybody comes out as Rookie of the Year. Right? Sometimes it takes years for guys to attain greatness. And in an art where you basically taught yourself, or being a self-taught filmmaker and learning different shots, learning software, learning different ways to tell the story, you get better and better with every film. And maybe your next one is the one that is your creme de la creme, where the next generation, like Joel and I, are looking up to you guys and going, oh my God, it's that top priority, boys. Like there's no way we'll ever get to that point, right?
We didn't really figure, I mean, for where it is today, it's pretty amazing to look back and see where we start. Well, I was a little late to the party, but from where Justin and Jeremy had started it's pretty crazy to what it's grown into now, just through hard work and just dedication, and it just being only a hobby. It's pretty amazing what we've been able to accomplish in the short amount of time. It feels like a long time when you look back, but in reality, it's a pretty short time span.
Yeah, it's a lot. You guys got a lot of hours. I mean, every film, every hunt. Yeah. I mean, you're pouring in hundreds and hundreds of hours for a 20, 30-minute video. And it adds up at the end of the day, where it is something you can be proud of. But you're right, it is a short amount of time for a lot amount of work.
Yeah. And then you get it done, and then you watch it like a year later, and you're like, man, that was terrible. I gotta be better.
Have you ever gone back and recut a film that you were like, you know what, that was just awful, I want to redo it?
I'm pulling that down.
I don't like going back. I like going back and reliving them just because it's fun. But I sit there and I literally break them down and find out, like, I see all these flaws in the editing side of it and the filming.
Right.
I'm kind of the hard ass of the team, so I'm always kind of like watching these guys.
A little bit of a perfectionist. It is your art and your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a hard ass out in the field.
Well, so Garrett kind of mentioned before you jumped in that you're transitioning. He said that you got a new gig, and I would anticipate that, based on what he told me, what you did before, it's like, the next steps, right? Like what's kind of, the goals, like where are you guys ultimately hoping to head? I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people, as they start kind of navigating these waters, their mission is like, how do we do this full time, right? Is that something for you guys where, that's your ultimate progression, is say, we're going to continue doing this, and this is going to become our livelihood?
Yeah, so for myself, I've always had like this dream that I would travel the world and film all over, whether it's New Zealand and Alaska, and then make, and then I'd come home and I'd edit, and then, reality hits you in the face, and you've got 3 kids and a wife at home. You can't really do that. you know, if I was 20 years old and single, then I would be all over it. But I'm I'm at a point where like my end goal would be like working for big companies, doing their premiere films, traveling a couple, you know, handful of times throughout a season. Yeah. Couple times a month, you know, during the hunting season, and just being known as an editor basically, and a, you know, a filmer for parts of the year. But yeah, I've done construction for 15 years, and I've just took a job being the marketing guy for S&S Archery, and through them I'm going to be able to, you know, learn a lot about getting people to the website, getting people to the YouTube channel, growing social media. That's one thing that we suck at, is our social media. And
You're in
you're
good
good where
company.
you're good where you invest your time, you know, and we do a good job on our films, but like we need to be well rounded. And so I think by getting that experience, like, it's totally new for me, except, I mean, I know how to film, I know how to edit, I know how to take photos, but learning the marketing side of it, I think it's only going to help our brand grow. And then hopefully, you know, and whether it's 2 years or 5 years or whatnot, we have so much work pouring in that we can just do it and go full time.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the thing that you touched on with that, and I know in the last like year, probably for me, and Jason probably, he'll probably laugh at me, but I've sat back.
I'm a little more tech savvy.
I've taken everything from, you know, watching and you know, doing like 7-day courses on, you know, YouTube, you know, improving your YouTube abilities and understanding YouTube metrics and understanding social media and all these other things, right? And I think that the hard part with all of this is that at some level, you can make great stuff. You can make amazing films. You can be, you know, put out tremendous, you know, images and videos and whatever. But if you don't understand that piece, it's never going to reach the end user.
You're going to miss a whole market.
So like he laughs because I'm watching a YouTube video of some like 19, 18-year-old kid who's telling me how to like learn how to do this crap. And I'm like, I can't be this dumb, man. I got to be able to figure this crap out, right? Like
it's the 18-year-old kid going, man, I made $300,000 last year by putting videos and doing this. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you're watching this guy.
Yeah, right. Like,
but even to your point, there are some good tidbits of information that have helped, you know, some of the videos that we've put up on our YouTube channel, and it helps you understand the process a little bit more, that there is a skill and an art to social media and how you promote yourself and your products and your ideas. You know, I do it, you know, just from our business, you know, my baseball business, where, you know, you got to put stuff out there in order to get people's attention. Doesn't matter if it's garbage or not. There's just a certain way it gets presented where people, for whatever reason, the next generation of kids just latch onto it. You know, and that's, you know, for you guys, it's reaching out to the next generation of hunter, right? And trying to get more people involved in being outdoors and enjoying, you know, the process of the hunt.
That's one thing that I am very, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to just put out whatever because I'm such a perfectionist.
Right.
And I think that's where we have to get better at it. Like, okay, I probably should have filmed, you know, like us working on the shop, you know, and then putting a little, you know, like, hey, check out us. We're
I was to say the pictures of your new shop were spectacular. Like the lighting was excellent and everything. You weren't just going to take a picture with your iPhone and chuck it up on Instagram, were you?
Don't tell anybody, but I didn't take those photos. My wife did.
You might be out of a job there, bud.
She does like real estate photography. And
she knows the tricks.
Like, multiple exposures, and so we're like, yeah, come on out, babe.
We just hand her the camera.
Right.
So she's been a huge asset to our team because she's a professional photographer, and so like lighting and, you know, rule of thirds and just little photography tricks. Well, it's the same as filming.
Right.
Like it just translates over.
It's just slower than filming. Dramatically, but she's funny. Like when you talk to her or we get back, she's like, I don't know how you guys do that in that environment because it's always on the fly. and like in a controlled environment, she's amazing. And I don't know if I'd have the patience to do it. Like it just feels so natural doing it on the fly, but it's also 10 times harder. Like
Right.
switching forth in your camera settings to go from video to photos. And then you gotta also incorporate that when you're the filmer that day. You have to incorporate that into your day. Hey, I got to be taking 60 to 100 photos today as well. So she's been huge on teaching us certain niches that help our photography end out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing I notice a lot with you guys is is you can see the time that you put into that, right? Which is some of those dramatic angles and whether it's exposures and things like that just have so much more of an effect, and they make things pop off of the screen at you, and it, like you said, I'm a huge believer, same thing, like what you mentioned with music and stuff like that, like without question that if those things match up, it's what sets the tone for people to engage in what you're about to show them or what you're leading them up to, or any of those things. And some of the stuff, is like I said, I've kind of read whatever. None of those things can be an afterthought, because the film and the video and all that stuff, it won't carry itself without having all of those things meshed together, right? Would you agree?
It's funny, like the comments sometimes that we get on our channel, like cut the music out. Why would there be music in mountains and stuff? Well, it's no different than watching like a really well-produced movie or a series on like Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Right.
All those people incorporate music into their production, so we're just doing it. It creates emotion.
Yeah,
100%.
With the film.
Right. One of the one things that I took away from filmmaker was Jason Matzinger, when we were first starting out, and he's like, imagine if you went into a closet and you watched a video with the lights off and it had no audio, and it was this dramatic scene. Well, it's not going to do much for you. But if you go in that room and there's no visual and you just hear this like heart depressing song, you're going to bawl your eyes out, or you're going to get mad, or you're going to get excited. Like music can captivate an audience. So one of our, I think our strong points is we will sit on these computers and for 5 hours straight and just try to find music that fits, like the perfect tones, the perfect beats. And that's the worst part about editing. Like before this podcast started, I've been looking for music for 2 hours, and you might find 2 songs, and you might not use them for 2 months. Right. But it's just one of those things that's where we try to value, our time and our effort is into those little things. We're not so big on graphics and being real snazzy because I don't know how to do them yet. I haven't spent a lot of time.
There's a YouTube video for that, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, I know there is. It's about another $3,000 computer setup if you want it to work.
Right. Of course. All it takes is money, right? All these things are so attainable with money.
Yeah. You start filming in 4K and you start wanting to do all that stuff, and it's just like, okay, I need a faster computer.
Yeah. Oh,
I need a bigger hard drive. I need more cloud space.
Yeah.
I'm already there. Like I bought a new computer last year, and it's already telling me like, you're out of space. I'm like, gosh, you freaking kidding me?
It doesn't last long.
It's every single season we're getting about an 8 terabyte hard drive, a new
Jesus.
one for each year.
Yeah.
I mean,
4K video is not small files.
No.
And neither are raw picture files.
We're probably 500 gigs on one hunt.
Easy.
Yeah.
Just if you film every day.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a
if
boatload of SD cards.
You've got like 10,000 gigs because he just hits record and then just forgets he's recording. I'll go back and look at the footage, and there's like a 45-minute clip. I'm like, what in the hell are you doing?
The camera's just pointing straight at the ground
if the
as he's
camera's on,
walking.
you can't miss anything, right?
Yeah, nothing is going on except for the first like 10 seconds.
I've done that when I've worn a GoPro and we go hunt.
Oh,
like
gosh.
for ducks or something like that. I'll press the quick shoot button, and then I'll forget that I left it on, and 30 minutes later, I've got a 30-minute clip of just me staring at the logs or kicking the dirt or picking my nose or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Do you guys use GoPros?
We use various types of cameras. I mean,
Not a lot.
we have some GoPros that are just for the kind of the head-mounted stuff and some of the scenery stuff.
No, I find that for me, that I have like good intentions, or I'm like, oh, that could be secondary or whatever, and then I end up finding that it's just like the mechanics of getting them up and running and turning it on and off and whatever, and I'm just like,
it's a little clunky. You got to pull it up on your phone to make sure it's sitting in the right spot, and
so it
batteries
rides
don't last
along in
that
the bag a
long.
lot.
Yeah.
But
we played around with them for a while, but once we got serious in filming, we just kind of said, all right, let's just. It was hard to kind of like match colors and just the look, so we decided just to bag it. But
That's the biggest issue. Like, we've been on hunts with guys that they do stuff off their cell phone. Yes, it's a great picture.
right.
How cell phones have come along these days, but we're like, we've spent thousands of dollars on camera equipment. We're not touching our cell phones.
Right. Yeah.
No,
I know
if you're
like,
invested in it like you guys are, I mean, that's easy. But
Yeah.
for an amateur out there, GoPro's very inexpensive. A cell phone, everybody's got one in their pocket. Like I just got a new iPhone 12, and they claim that you can shoot in all these different f-stops and different zooms and things like that. And like, you know what? For most people, it's probably good enough. If you just want to document your hunt just for your own posterity, that's great. Right. Are you going to make an award-winning film out of it? Maybe. I don't know what kind of editing skills you got, but I guess anything's possible out there if you got the know-how and the manpower.
if you could literally, as a filmmaker, somebody starting, if you could learn how to film transitions, and that's just clips leading into other clips, your films would rock.
Yeah,
like
smash it.
There's so many films that are out there that a guy's sitting, and then the next thing you know, he's walking, and then he's back to sitting.
It's not just a clean wipe from one frame to the next.
No,
or the screen flips around in a circle.
When we first started, I remember editing, and you'd have to do that blend, that dissolve effect, where each clip bled into each clip, and it made it really smooth, and then I'd see this hard cut, like, what's this? And you put it on that footage, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, it just jumps. And then until you really learn like transitions and how those clips flow together, like hard clips is what movies, and everybody, like, that's what the industry does. It's hard clips, hard cuts, and it's a fun process. And when you really like invest your brain into it and just go for it, it's a lot of fun.
More rewarding.
Yeah,
when you do it.
Most
100%.
of our funnest nights hanging out is, we come back in here to this shop and pull up a hunt from 2010 and start watching it, and you just laugh
at yourselves.
Oh yeah.
It's just great. You remember that just hearing a song. We were fighting stupid copyright claims because and you had to go back and you had to find music that you bought in 2017 and 2016 and prove that you had the licenses for it. And once you hear that song, you're just like, oh man, I know what hunt that it was.
Right.
You can instantly think like what clips was going on, and that's fun.
Yeah. So speaking of fun stuff, what's now that you've got Garrett, out of the clamps of Denver, away from us, what's on the docket for 2021? Like, what do you guys? Not that I'm expecting you to spill everything, but like, what are you guys targeting this year for hunts? Are you guys? I know you always do a spring bear, right?
Yeah.
And
we're awful planners, first and foremost. So we get asked this all the time. We're like, I don't know. We're just doing the regular hunt in Idaho.
Right. So you're like, what? The deadline's not up yet. What are you talking about? We don't know what the hell we're doing.
We're doing a spring bear hunt with Kendall, with Crispy and
Yep.
Black Obus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an awesome hunt. I've hunted with Kendall twice, 2-3 times. Yeah, 2 or 3 times, and he's just an awesome dude. So we're looking forward to that hunt, and then we will bait this year as well. My son turns 10 here in a month, so he can hunt in the spring.
Nice.
So we're going to try to get him a bear, and then we'll just do our normal stuff. We'll do antelope, and then we're planning on going to Alaska, but we don't have anything scheduled. So that's one of those things where we should have had it done, but we don't.
COVID's been kind of a interceptor of that too, a little bit.
Sure. Oh, I know.
We were about to book a moose caribou combo with Steve and Mark with EXO and me and Garrett. And then COVID hit, and we decided to kind of wait and see what happened. We have yet to look back into it, so we're not sure if it's going to happen or not. But
yeah, I know that. I think that's the big thing for us is we're starting to try and, I think that's how a lot of guys start, where you just hunt with the guys that you hunt with, and then as you start to grow and you start to meet more people, and then you get more into like what you guys are doing. And we've started talking about this year. We're like, we need to expand, because number one, we want to hunt with more people, and I think we all start being very selective with who we hunt with and why we hunt with them, and a lot of times it is because they're friends, or we like the way that they hunt, or whatever that might be. And this is kind of the first year for us where we're like, we want to start actually, inviting people and start asking people to do more hunts, because number one, anytime I can hunt more, I'm always in. But number two, just kind of expanding our sphere of people that, we want to go out and spend some time in the woods with. So,
yeah,
that's been pretty hard. Like for us, we get asked a lot, and not to be like standoffish, but it's hard to say no. Like you want to say yes, but we already have so much on our plate between the hunts that me and Justin and Jeremy go on that unfortunately we don't have time for everybody. So it's been kind of like not awkward, but it just sucks always saying no.
Right.
Not that we're like a nitpicky who we hunt with or who we go with. Like we've done project work with other people, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's also tough to take that next leap. And just like some dudes ask us and we have no idea like their style of hunting, or if you're 5 days in the backcountry, what are they gonna? How are they
get that dog?
Day 5 of not seeing anything. Yelling at the dog.
Yeah,
You
you
tell
need
that
the dog
dog.
back there, man.
Gosh, you guys want one?
We each got our own.
Yeah, my 8-month-old puppy is sitting outside the door right now.
I'm surprised he's actually not whimpering. To be
Yeah,
honest with you.
exactly. So, but no. So
So
what
then
you're
we can
saying
count
is,
on you guys for September here in Colorado. Then, so since you can't say no and you're on the podcast,
You guys,
we appreciate it. We'll see you when you get here.
I got a new job that's encouraging me to go into the
That's
field.
so
I will
dangerous.
go.
hey,
If you front the tags, I'll be there.
okay.
And we're done.
All right, and that's a wrap. Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us
first
today.
week of September. We'll see you in Denver.
That was really the only reason I wanted to get you on. Is I was going to
We just wanted
you
to
in.
corner you into that question.
So no, in 2
I'll
years.
book my plane ticket.
You can drive on down. It's all right.
We'll
I've only made that drive like 15 times. I'm about sick of that drive.
yeah, I mean, so, but anyhow, well, we would obviously love to be in the queue, and sometime I know we talk about, as we said, expanding our hunting in general. Hopefully sometime somewhere down the road, we would welcome that, and find a way where we would end up maybe making a camp together someday. That'd be awesome. We would
cool.
love that.
You guys,
so.
you guys should come up to Tamarack this year.
Hey.
Do
Dude,
the Northwest.
twist my arm.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, well, we're gonna let you. I know you guys got another call tonight, and Justin, thanks for hopping on. I asked Garrett earlier if you were going to join us tonight, and I'm glad that your curiosity couldn't hold you back. So it's
I'm kind of shy. No, I was listening to him about camera gear, and he really doesn't know. I Had to get on there and put my 2 cents in.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. And
The boss. himself.
and we appreciate you all for doing it.
Indeed.
So, but thank you guys for jumping on. We want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you guys. Obviously, website, go to toppriorityhunting.com. They are on any of the social media outlets as well. If you look at anything on the Full Draw Film Tour, they've done plenty of work on there, not only from hunts they've done, but hunts they've produced. And it's funny because Garrett originally reached out to me on social media. He's like, "Hey, what the hell do you guys do? I live in Denver," and that's kind of how we met. And so that's been pretty cool. That I don't know if Garrett told you. I mean, me and a couple of my buddies helped him cut up his bull from last year. That was quite a night.
That bull. That 49 bull.
Yeah, and so we have managed to have a little bit of fun together, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again in the future. But
sure.
We appreciate
Absolutely.
you. We appreciate you guys coming on. We appreciate your time. All the best, and congrats on the new spot. And hopefully we'll run into you guys down the road.
Great. Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks for having us on, boys.
Yeah, we appreciate it.